Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, March 15th, 2021, 6:20, and you're at a special meeting of the Common Council of the City of Wausau. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, next item, roll call. Clerk Leslie will call you.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Here.
Killian,
Present.
Neal, Wadinsky,
Here.
McElhaney,
Here.
Rasmussen,
Here.
Watson,
Here.
Herbst,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
10 members are present.
Thank you very much. Next item, pre-registered citizens for matters appearing on the agenda or other public comment. I don't think anybody has registered, and nobody is here in the audience that is considered the public. Chief, if you got something to say, let us know. Next item is we would like to suspend the rules, 6B filing and 12A referral of resolutions. This does require a 2/3 vote. Yes, got a motion by Rasmussen. Got a second by Peckham. We're ready to go.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Wadinsky,
Aye.
McElhaney,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Herbst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we are now talking about file number 201019, a resolution authorizing the sale of city-owned property at 510 South 32nd Avenue. That is the old Station Number 2 fire station. I don't know if we want to maybe have a little discussion first. Sean, would that fall to you? Would you like to just give a brief overview?
Sure, I can just give a few opening comments.
Sure.
Thank you for everyone for joining in on this this odd occasion here. This is kind of an odd circumstance, and hopefully you'll understand in a moment here. Last October, the council had approved the staff to go out and put the fire station number 2, the former fire station number 2, up for sale. Was listed with a realtor, Karen Hocking, with Hocking Real Estate after a bid process with a number of commercial realtors in the community. It's been on the market since October. There has not been an offer to this point. There has been about 10 people that have looked at the facility. The facility is limited in its uses. It is very dirty in the truck bay. It is going to need a new roof in a few years. Apparently the boiler is going to need replacement in a few years as well. It's zoned institutional right now for that facility. And there was an offer that was received last week, Thursday, from a prospective buyer looking to purchase the property for $200,000 cash. And the only contingency to that, which is expected, is it's a contingency related to zoning approval for that property. The buyer is projecting to use the facility as a place to store a collection of vehicles that he has in the truck bay, and then simply use the upper part of the facility, which has the offices, the fire station, bunkhouse, and cookhouse, as kind of a personal area to have friends gather for coffee. Our understanding from the realtor, and this person is represented by a different realtor than Karen Hocking, but our understanding, there is not going to be any other people there to visit or tour the cars. This isn't a museum for cars. It also is not going to be a car dealership or a place that is selling cars or repairing cars. That's what we know of the buyer at this point. What you're being asked to do is simply approve give approval for the city to accept the offer to purchase. There will be, as I mentioned, a zoning change that will need to occur at some point down the road, and the sale of the property is ultimately contingent upon that zoning change occurring.
Thank you.
So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about this.
Alder Rasmussen, do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
One question. Obviously, the buyer, do we know if the buyer is buying it as a tax-paying entity, will the new owner pay tax on the building?
Yes, they will.
Okay. With
They'll
that,
be
then,
privately.
with that, then I will make a motion that we approve the sale and accept the offer.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the sale. It looks like I have a second from Alder Larson.
No.
Okay, well, it's not time to talk yet. I need a second before we can.
Because I wanted to speak.
Okay, I need a second first, before we start talking about it. Second by Watson. All right, Alder Larson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just a little curious, I'm being new at this, are we doing this again backwards? Should we be zoning this first before, rezoning it first before selling it?
I'm looking at staff and everybody's shaking their head no, that this is the process. The contingency, I don't know if, Attorney Jacobson, if you,
Well, the reason why I ask is because I don't want it to end up like another mess like the Cleveland Avenue.
If they didn't get the zoning approval, then the sale wouldn't go through, the closing wouldn't go through. The purchase contract is accepted contingent upon them being able to use it for the purposes that Sean described.
Thank you.
I see that, our city planner, Brad Lenz, has appeared. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Not at this point. I think Ann described it well, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there any more discussion? Yes, Alder Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I had some concerns with the seller that they did not put any earnest money down, offered to put down $5,000 once the offer is accepted, so that seems unusual to me, especially, I guess, for having bought residential homes in the past. And then I guess with how it was handled with Hocking Real Estate, in recent things that I've bought on my own or sold on my own, I went ahead and had the agent as working solely for me, not representing both the seller and the buyer. And so you could end up getting, instead of thinking it's valued at $330 and getting a $200,000 offer, it just seems that it's kind of out of whack, in my opinion, and that I do think with this kind of a variance, it would be worthwhile to have an appraisal to make sure that we are really in the right ballpark. I also wanted to mention to you that within my neighborhood, I met a realtor that had bought a property a block from where I live and was dealing with an estate in Minnesota that the elderly grandmother had passed on. And the relatives in Minnesota had it listed for like $90,000 for a home in my neighborhood. And this realtor who bought it boasted he lowballed $33,000. And they were not happy, but they did accept it. And I think the family was quite upset about it. And he boasted to me that he went through divorce and went through foreclosure, and that at this point he's buying properties for cash, but you take it or he goes on somewhere else. And I think the city deserves better than this. We need to know what the value is, and then if per se the boiler and the roof would have some effect on the value, well, then we would know. But I think as being a fiduciary role, we need to know what the value is of the property and not to be giving it away, especially for someone that's already in this business in the real estate business. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that Sean told us that we have separate real estate representation. So Karen Hocking is not representing the other buyer as well. I would just want to give our finance director, Mary Ann Grote, an opportunity to give a little more information.
Sure, thank you. So I guess just a couple of points. It has been sitting on the market. In fact, Sean and I had just talked about maybe looking at reducing the price. So you've been offered, you've really, as a council, received two offers, $0 and $200,000. Like I said, it's been sitting on the market for a while. This is a cash offer. Again, contingent on a zoning change. Every day that passes, we are investing taxpayer dollars into it through heating, maintenance, insurance. As Sean pointed out, it's got some age components of the facility, whether that be the roof or the heating system. And so at any point, it could become apparent that we need to make some upgrades to those items. I would encourage council to consider this a good offer and move on from them. We're not in the market or in the sector of buying and selling property. We're not necessarily good property owners all the time, especially for excess property, and so I think we should get out of that market. We have no facility maintenance person right now, so I would recommend that we accept the offer.
Right, I have Alder Killian, Rasmussen, Herbst, Watson, and Alder Larson. If your hand is up for another comment, I will call on you after that. But first,
Thank you.
Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this, and I find the offer to be reasonable and what is proposed to be reasonable, although in terms of what was inquired about earlier, the sequence of the property sale and zoning, and the fact that apparently this will be contingent, the sale would be contingent upon successful zoning. I will defer to the relevant older person in this district, and I intend to support this, but I will also tell you that I would never support such a sequence of events in District 3, and in District 3, it will not be acceptable to sell a property contingent to zoning, such as Cleveland Avenue, for instance, because I think it introduces a bias and prejudice to the zoning process that perhaps could be left out if the sequence were adjusted. So as long as this is up to the comfort level of the older person of this district, that's really none of my concern, but I would never support such a sequence in District 3. Thank you.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. We did some analysis on the disposition of this property previously in committee. I believe we started that in the SISM committee. And at that point, just over, I want to say it's probably over a year ago now, when Chuck Robinson came forward with a nonprofit senior center, we were ready to give that building away if they could gather themselves and their plan. Since that time, obviously, that opportunity has gone away. We asked for a number of submissions from various realtors so we could look at what their commission structure is, and we picked talking based on favorable response to that comparison. That said, I think I agree with Mary Ann. We need to get out from under the maintenance on this building. The longer we sit with buildings that are vacant, the more of a drag they become on taxpayer resources. And so if the boiler or the roof or anything else goes anytime soon, while we still own it, we have to pay that bill for a building that we have no need for. And so with regard to the zoning, it is not uncommon that a property would be offered for sale contingent upon rezoning. I think that based on experience with a couple properties in my district, the city doesn't always rezone properties first. And often a rezone request comes from either a buyer or a current owner. And I have seen many, many times where, we've approved a transaction contingent upon rezoning, and especially where apartment buildings and things are proposed. That's what the Plan Commission is for. And so I will absolutely support this. I think that getting that building off of our property inventory is key. Thank you.
Thanks. Alder Herbst.
I'm going to read, otherwise I will sit here and babble. I support the sale of this property, but not the proposed use of the car showroom, office, and meeting room as outlined in our packet. How can this be taxed if it is for his personal use, referring to Jeffrey Otto? This is a residential area, and when I spoke with Bill Hebert today, I wanted to know what institutional zoning district was. And he said, at this point, this is not, according to the institutional zoning district, it does not fit that criteria and would have to be rezoned. I can almost guarantee you, my constituents are going to be like the constituents from District 3. They are not going to be happy and allow, as in this packet, a car showroom and an office and a meeting. If this is for a gentleman who wants to store his cars there, wow, $200,000 a year, I'll put up a pole building and I'll let him store his automobiles in my pole building. I'm for the sale of the property, but I am not in support of the project at this point. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Watson?
I guess my question surrounds the idea of the zoning. So Alder Herbst, I guess, gave me a little more information about what the institutional zoning district is, but is there any hint about what the change would have to be to accommodate this project?
Sure.
Or is it just still up in the air?
I don't know if Brad, if you want to touch on this.
I can speak to that. Well, I mean, the institutional zoning was basically left over from when it was a fire station. The city owned it. It was a public facility, and that's what it was carried forward with when it was a fire station. So that's what it was. We didn't change the zoning first because the direction was to put it up for sale and to see what we would get. Keep it somewhat open, and then weigh in on whether it's acceptable or not at a later time, and we still have to do that. There is a process for zoning. It goes through plan commission. Neighbors are notified. It's a public hearing, and that's the point where we can accept it or not accept it. And again, the sale is contingent on that, so there's still time to, I guess, weigh in on this particular project and whether it's a good one or not. The zoning, it would probably need to change to what it is right directly across the street, which is a mixed-use commercial zoning district. It would allow some small-scale commercial uses that are compatible with the residential that's across the street. So that's what the zoning would need to be. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alder Larson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, what has this building been assessed, and what is the assessed value of it?
I mean, yes, I will call on the finance director. We owned it, so. It's a government building.
So because it's a government building today, it's assessed value, so the value that it would be taxed on is zero. And that valuation occurs each year on January 1st. So as of 1/1/21, it had a zero value as well because we owned it. But once a sale to a private entity occurs, and whether they're using it for personal use or whether they're using it for commercial use, it will be taxable. The only way it would not be taxable would be if they submitted to the city assessor a tax exempt request and it met all of the guidelines for tax exemption. So, I heard Dawn say that she was concerned that it would not be taxable because he wasn't going to live there or necessarily use it for a business purpose. But it will be taxable because it's real estate, and regardless of that specific use, it would be taxable. And it would be taxed by our city assessor because it's not being used for manufacturing. So absolutely will have a taxable value. And again.
But I mean, what I'm saying is what is the building assessed for? Obviously, you don't put something up for sale without first figuring out what it's worth.
So appraise that. So we had some
appraise
work
value.
done in advance, and that's how we established our sale price. Again, we've had it set on the market for a number of months now, and this is the only offer. And, you know, the market has been very busy, so, you know, we were surprised that we had not received any offers to date. And the other comment I wanted to make is, you know, when buyers are looking for contingency on a change in use, you know, it's costly from a time standpoint, and it can be from a money standpoint if they have to have people help them with it, to go through that change of use, you know, to deal with planning. And so they're asking you to first see whether you're interested in this purchase price. And if you are interested in the purchase price, then they'll go through the zoning process, and as Brad Lenz said, then you'll get to hear all of the information about the use. And so right now, today, you're saying, we agree on the purchase price, and the zoning will occur as it naturally does through the process that Brad Lenz indicated.
Okay,
But what has the building, what is the dollar worth of the building? What has it been appraised for? How can you come up with a cost of $200,000 if you're not giving me a number of what it was appraised for?
Well, like I said, what was it? Is Sean still on the phone?
Yes.
Yep. I can help address that, Alderperson Larson. So we did have a broker opinion of value conducted for that, and that is different from an appraisal, which is generally in excess of $1,000 it costs. This cost the city $250 to conduct this. And again, there is no assessment of the property. The broker opinion of value came in at $330,000, and that was conducted in June of last year. That was before the facility was not, it was still being used as a fire station. Since that's been emptied out, a lot of the damage and the concern to the facility is more apparent than it was when the fire station was in use, when that broker opinion of value was conducted. It's also, keep in mind, this is a rather unique property. There's not a lot of former fire stations that are around. So anytime there's any appraisal that's done in the real estate market, there's a establishment of comparable real estate properties, and there just aren't really many comparable properties to this in the city or in central Wisconsin. And so that number, is a difficult one to adjust. As I indicated, when I first started talking about the project, there have been 8 people that have done showings through the facility. And, the interest has been there in the building, but the real estate agent has indicated that almost every person has realized they're going to have to invest another $50,000 to $100,000 in order to bring the building up to whatever their use was, whether it was for a personal home or an office building or a doggy daycare, I think was one of the items. So there is going to be a significant amount of investment for any buyer into this, and that's, again, another reason why we think this is a fair price for selling.
Okay, Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, my apologies for tuning in a few minutes late. I was depending on my calendar, city calendar listed the start time is 6:30. Then I noticed on the agenda, when I opened it up here, it said 6:20, so my apologies. I don't know what I might have missed in those first few minutes of discussion. Alder Larson did touch on one of my questions, which was, an estimate of what our taxable income might be from this sale once it was turned over. Assuming that with a $200,000 purchase price and probably anticipated improvements to get it to where it needs to be for the user, that we would be in the $6,000 or $7,000 range of tax income. Do we know how much we have been spending for any kind of maintenance, upkeep, heating, and whatnot? Let's say since last summer.
I'm seeing Finance Director Grote shaking her head. We don't have that calculated out.
Okay, not even a ballpark estimate? I mean, we've had to heat it, are there bills for heating and that sort of thing?
It's not looking good, but if you want her to say we don't have it, she's approaching the podium.
So I'm just concerned about, yeah, what
guess
is our
during the
cost of-
winter, it's gonna be a couple of $1,000s a month for heating and electricity, a couple $1,000s a month, maybe. I can go look if you'd like. I'm sorry, I didn't anticipate people having concerns, so.
Did you have another question?
I do, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, I do think the cost of ownership is a salient point for us to consider when we're, deciding whether or not we want to continue owning this building or have done with it. So, based on this, I don't know, I'm leaning towards supporting, approving the sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Peckham.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. When I saw the description in a packet of a car showroom, I was a little concerned, but Mr. Fitzgerald is telling us it would be more of a collector's building and kind of clubhouse, which I would think would be perfectly, neighborhood residents would be happy with that. And it's, I think it's a deal that we should take. It's $200,000 that we don't have right now. And I think we should go for it. I would also commend those involved in working with a commercial real estate broker. I think we probably ended up better than if we would have tried to run it through city channels as we have done with other properties in the past. So I think we should go for it. If somebody wants to attach a clause to it that vehicles, that not be inactive like a car dealership, that would be certainly acceptable, but I think we should go for it.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard some commentary earlier that was not apparent or in the packet. So my question would be, is my understanding correct that this property is in Alder Herbst's district, and that Alder Herbst has stated that the district is not supportive of the sale? Could that be confirmed?
I can't answer for Alder Herbst, but she can answer for herself.
Tom, state your comment again.
Oh, sorry, Alder Herbst. Is this in your district?
Yes.
And it sounded as though you and your district was not supportive of this transaction. Is that correct?
Well, I probably misled you. I meant to state that the fact that the people in the district would not be happy with having a car showroom, okay? And in speaking with Bill Hebert, he stated that, well, we had a problem with car ride 199. We don't need another facility like that. And I wholeheartedly agreed. I agree for the sale of the property without a doubt. I have no part there. I very much support it. But I know that things will have to go out, letters will have to go out, and at that point, I can guarantee you the people in the district are not going to appreciate the fact that they have a car showroom there. And like the constituents, your district, they are not going to be happy either. So we're going to have to see how it all shakes out.
Well, in that case, may I ask how the district feels about this transaction? I suppose it would be of paramount importance to me to know how the district approaches this transaction and what its disposition is, because, that was not readily clear from the packet. So that would carry a great deal of weight in my consideration.
Alder Killian, this just appeared in our packet for this very special meeting, and I'm sure that most of the people in the district were not aware of it, but after this meeting, they certainly will be. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm wondering, Sean, do you think you could just clarify the use of the term showroom? We're not talking a car dealership, are we?
Yeah, that's what they indicated.
No, and again, I don't have any more information than the real estate agent was able to pass on to me, and that's as much clarity as she could provide. She said this is going to be a place for him to store his own personal collection, but it would not be open to the public or others to come see in kind of a museum type of a format. He would be able to have personal acquaintances there, just like anyone else in a residential use. But again, there would not be any ability to sell vehicles there. That would require a completely different zoning permit as well as other permits from the state. And it's not going to be used as a place for auto maintenance and revving engines at high volume. So just a strictly personal use.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you.
Pardon me, Mayor, I had not finished my time yet, but thank you for that question to Mr. Fitzgerald. May I use the remainder of my time?
Sure, we're not really timing. This isn't Congress, so.
Thank you. So essentially, if the older person of the district supports this, then so would I. I had intended to support it earlier, but if it turns out that the older person from the district will not be supporting this, that would certainly change my mind, because I just take it naturally that the representative is most in tune with the people's sentiments in that district. And so if the older person has concerns with this, then I would pivot and not support this. But I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. So just for a point of clarification, showroom might be a little bit displaced. We're looking at a private car collector looking for a place to display for his own use a private car collection. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah. I think the term clubhouse has been used. Again, I don't want to lead people astray that there's going to be a membership organization or anyone coming there. This is just a private individual who has the means to store his collection in this fashion.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Herbst.
Hey, Madam Chair, if this is just going to be...
Do you think you could turn your mic on for us? Thank you.
I thought I have a big enough mouth.
Maybe.
Well, that's true, too. The fact that he's going to have this building to show his cars, yeah, right. He's not going to have people come there and take a look at them and park in there. I mean, what is the sense? What does he need a meeting room for? What does he need an office for? If it's just going to be a showroom for his own personal collection of cars. And in listening to Alder Killian, to be honest with you, as I came in here tonight, I was not going to support this at all. I decided I would support the sale of it, but I do not support the rest of it. So I, at this point, am going to point blank say, I retract supporting it. I will not support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I just wanted to clarify that with other properties that the city has sold, like on Thomas Street to widen the road, the city was required under TIF to go ahead and get fair appraisals to buy those properties. And I understand that different realtors can kind of go through their properties and try to find things that are similar so that residents aren't necessarily paying for a full real estate appraisal, which can cost $500 or so. But with an independent appraisal of the property, we would know what the value is, and then if the condition of the roof or the boiler or whatever other things that would lower the value, we would have a better idea and know definitively what is the range of the property. And in my opinion, and as being an accountant and having bought properties, I want to know what it's really worth. And since we are representing the people, I think that we should make that commitment on getting an appraisal so that we're not being thought about in the future is that we're giving a $100,000 good deal to one resident within the city. The other concern is, I guess in talking about showroom, I was under the impression, okay, well, showroom, does that mean they're going to have auto sales there? Are they going to end up doing automotive work? And when you talk about a clubhouse, clubhouses have been used in the past, where I grew up in the UP, as like a place for youth to hang out. The other use in our area, clubhouse, is with North Central Healthcare, where they have a clubhouse for those residents that are looking for a place to be and a place to hang out. So for me, it doesn't seem definitive, or that maybe at some time in the future, maybe he would want to make it into a museum and make it a not-for-profit. So I don't think we have enough information about the purpose at that point. And I do feel that since we're representing the residents, and they want to know that we're being fair in what we're selling and not just giving one person a $100,000 good deal of less in cost, I think it's worth pursuing the appraisal. And I guess I plan on voting no, or I do think we should look at making some other stipulations and get these answers before making a final sale or the decision to sell. Thank you.
Alder Watson.
I guess I see that it could be a good venture to investigate. I mean, the sale price is pretty solid at $200,000. We do have a lot of expenses going into it right now. It's not earning any kind of taxable income back to the city. So I would support this, but I do like it being contingent on the zoning, and especially since the community gets involved in that. If it's something that's not acceptable to the neighbors, they'll be heard. There's a form to be, a form and a process to follow. But I think it should be something that we should investigate. It sounds like a really good deal, so I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. This really becomes a question of, do we or do we not want $200,000? The Plan Commission takes care of the zoning problem. Right now, we're stuck with a building that has no use for us. It continues to present ongoing maintenance expense. And this offer that we have in front of us, we're here tonight at a special meeting because it needs an answer by Friday. If it could have waited for weeks and weeks, and we had time to go through the machinations and the expense of a commercial appraisal, we probably wouldn't have needed a special meeting. So I guess I have been around long enough to know what the cost of ownership adds up to. At one point, when I first came on the council, the city was the proud owner of the federal building. And when it took that on, it figured it would turn that around in a quick redevelopment, and that didn't happen. And there were boilers, and there were windows, and there were all kinds of problems. And the taxpayer paid all of that. And so now we know this building is going to need a boiler, and it's going to need a roof. And so if that stuff comes to fruition, and we let this buyer leave, this thing hasn't been flying off the market. Market's been active, and of the people who've looked at it, this is the one offer. So it comes down to a do we or don't we want to be rid of the building that's useless and collect the $200,000. So I'm planning to support it.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to tell you the order: Alder Larson, Alder McElhaney, and Alder Killian. Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like Alder Ryan. There's just too many unanswered questions here. And the fact that I was going to ask, why are we having a special meeting about this? But now all of a sudden I just find out that they have to have an answer by Friday. Well, I don't understand how that works. But, and the fact is that there's no representation here from the person who's buying it, the realtor, or himself personally. There's just too many unanswered questions here. I am not going to support this. Thank you.
All right. Alder McElhaney.
I know that maybe I'm going a little bit ahead of the game, but I'd like to know, I mean, I guess I too was a little concerned with the use. I mean, those are odd words. It's, you know, clubhouse and showroom. If I wanted it to store my cars, I call it a garage. So I guess there's just, you know, that's just odd terminology, if you ask me. But I have what would the zoning need to be, or what, for him to do something other than store his cars? I mean, if he was just storing cars, would that be residential or mixed use? I guess I want to look ahead to see, you know, what he's going to be asking for.
Brad, I'm wondering if you have, or Sean.
Sure. Well, I can take a stab. Sean's on mute, so I'll take it. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with your point. It's kind of an odd mix of use, and you know, when we talked about it, it was a little strange as it relates to our zoning code. You know, where does it fit? It's a showroom implies some element of sales, but that's not really what he's doing, and he's not living there, so it's not like a personal garage or something like that. So, you know, Bill Hebert and I talked about it a little bit today, and you know, we're looking at, and this isn't the zoning hearing, so this is kind of off the cuff. So again, you know, I didn't anticipate going into this much detail, but you know, there is a commercial district that allows indoor sales and service, and that's the zoning district that's directly across the street. You know, where there are offices and other commercial uses. And as the name implies, it's only indoors, so there wouldn't be anything outdoors. There wouldn't be a car dealership out there. You know, whatever he does would have to happen inside the existing building. He's not, you know, planning on adding anything on. He's reusing the existing building. So we think that that's where this particular use would fall. And it would sort of put the clamps on him, you know, expanding it to something else like storage units or, you know, some outdoor car dealership type thing. So, again, that district is right there in the area. It's, you know, a mixed use district with commercial, and it does seem to, you know, put some restrictions on the use. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question because it's not just about this use. You know, zoning kind of sets the stage for the future uses, and if this guy does go away, then, you know, that zoning still applies to the next user, so we should be concerned about that. But, you know, we do feel there are options, and again, this isn't the zoning hearing, this is the initial discussion on the sale of the property, and, you know, we'll hear from the neighbors, we'll, you know, look at the zoning code, and we can debate this in more detail when we have more information, and, you know, we will have either the realtor or the prospective buyer at that meeting. I think the realtor's on vacation, which is why she isn't here. I'm not sure where the buyer is, but yeah, again, there are more detailed discussions to follow if this does pass.
I do have the utility information if you want me to share that.
Sure.
So during the winter months, the gas was about $1,200 and the electric was about $450. Of course, that was when it was occupied. So, you know, the heating and cooling, now that it's vacant, could be changing over time if we're, you know, turning down the heat considerably. But it's about $1,000 to heat it each month over the winter.
Okay, thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I found the commentary to be very helpful. In fact, hearing from the district alderperson was critical for me because entering this meeting, I had wholeheartedly supported this and was prepared to vote for it. But now hearing from the district's alderperson, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, and I'll tell you why. The City Hall has had a history of listening to the representation from older people who, yes, do know what their citizens want. and then dismissing it. And, I'd be happy to inventory it at a later date, but almost invariably it has led to poor circumstances or outcomes. So now knowing that the district alderperson does not support this, I wouldn't touch it. And also, I think it begs the question, who are we as a body to contradict the district's alderperson? This is a community there. It's not a colony. It's not for us to monetize or take possession of if the people may not want it. And so that input has been critical enough for me that I will be voting against this. And I think as a body, we need to start revisiting the principle of input from the district's alderperson. And short of an act of God, so to speak, I do not think it is incumbent upon us to contradict what the alderperson is telling us. It's called democracy. That is why we have elections. So when Alder Herbst says she will not be supporting it, what I hear is that district will not be supporting it, and she represents that district, and that's the way legitimate democracy usually occurs. So I would call this the Icarus effect, and I think it's pure hubris for other districts to contradict the alderperson. And what we see is as other districts fly closer to the sun, their wings tend to melt. I think we need to listen to what the alderperson is saying, and I will not only vote against this now, which is a 180 for me, I will vote against it enthusiastically. And I think we need to start thinking about how local democracy works, and unless there's a very exceptional reason, we should never contradict what the district wants. Thank you.
Alder Peckham.
Thank you. I had a procedural question. If we send this to planning and they act on the zoning, does that come back to us for a final approval?
No, I don't believe it would, Alder Peckham. If you approve the sale this evening, the body's spoken on the sale, it's still contingent. I mean, we have to meet the contingency, but council's approved the sale, but it's just contingent upon zoning. So the zoning process would be separate. If the zoning goes through council, then that will come back to council, but not the sale of the property. So tonight, if you vote in favor of this motion, you're approving the sale on these substantial terms, subject to a couple changes I'd like to make to the offer to purchase that are legal in nature. For instance, we don't usually provide the purchaser with title insurance or gap insurance. So there's a couple legal things I would cross out. But you would be moving to approve or voting to approve the sale tonight. The zoning is a separate issue that would come back, but if when that comes back does not pass, then there won't be a conveyance.
Okay, so the zoning question will come back to the council.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
In light of that, and that, we're not kind of giving up on this or walking away from it, I would move to authorize the sale of city-owned property at 510 South 32nd Avenue.
Just for the record, we already have a live motion and second.
Very good.
So you can, your support is noted.
Very good. I have a potential amendment.
Okay, would
to
you like
it.
to offer that now?
That would be to amend it to inform the planning commission that we would like the zoning to be such that it never be used under that zoning, to pick a zoning status where it can't be a commercial car dealership.
I see Brad kind of leaning in. Is that something?
I don't know what status that would be, but I think that's the concern is that, we've had this showroom word float out there, and I was envisioning, I wanted to know where are they going to park all the cars and what are the neighbors going to think about that, but that's not what's going to happen. So I think if we could, I don't know if we can tie the Plan Commission's hand that way, or
Well, I can chime in if you'd like.
Yes, please.
The car, or auto sales would be a conditional use permit on top of the zoning change, so it is a separate process. That, so in order to do that, even if the zoning's changed, they would still need additional approval, but we'll note the comments and look to, since we own the property, we can petition for a specific zoning change, so we'll take another look at it in more detail, make sure that we're not opening it up to things that we don't intend to go there, so we will take a look at that more closely.
I just want to be clear, have you offered an amendment?
In light of Mr. Lenz's information, I don't think an amendment is necessary, and I withdraw.
Okay, thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I guess just as a final note, I think it's important to recognize that the 11 of us represent 11 different districts that value different things. And I think just because on an individual issue, all districts may not agree with one another and all districts may not necessarily agree with the alder representing the area, that does not mean that any of our districts are flying too close to the sun and looking to get burned. Now, I really think that we need to check that, and I think that we also need to recognize that based on the fact that different districts value different things, we need to make our own decision, and we cannot commit to just automatically following, all 11 of us or the other 10 of us are just going to automatically commit that we're going to follow the alder that represents the individual district. Sometimes that's absolutely necessary, but you can't expect that we would do that unconditionally every time. Now, my district, as an example, values economics, and they don't want to see me spending taxpayer dollars to maintain and retain useless property that's going to cost us money. And so, I've been told on a number of occasions to get out of the property business. And so my supporting the sale of surplus city-owned property plays well in District 7. So, I think it's important to recognize that we all represent different populations, and I don't think that the fact that a vote agrees or disagrees should be a source of consternation amongst any of us. Thank you.
Alder Ryan and then Alder McElhaney.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess with different properties that I've, residential that I have sold or bought, there could be a counter here that I think could clarify it. And I do think from, what we're talking about, the showroom or potential of a car sales or potential of a car repair, and then looking at, will a lot of this be potentially stored outside? I'm wondering, and our attorney, can we do some type of amendment or counter here to clarify it that isn't necessarily requiring zoning?
Sorry, clarify that
Decision
again, make a counter offer to say what? To restrict the use?
To restrict their use from, I guess, car sales or auto repairs or whatever kind of repair shop, where that there would be a lot of storage on the outside.
I suppose you could make a counter offer in that regard to clarify that and further restrict it. I mean, they're still going to have to go through the zoning process separately.
But at this point, the buyer has not put any earnest money down, and is offering to put down $5,000 within 5 days of the accepted offer. So I do think we could counter tonight. It's just a question, what would we like to counter that could be clarified? Thank you.
Alder McElhaney.
I don't want to keep beating this zoning to death because I know that's a separate, the separate step. But it, since getting this on Friday, it has bothered me that he put contingent on zoning. He's putting showroom and clubhouse or whatever, and didn't even say, well, he would like it zoned as. Like, I want it zoned so I can use it for this purpose, or I just think that it's just so, I don't know, so vague. And, we do have alder groups, people that are worried. I think that is our issue too. They're still our residents. all of them. And so I guess my concern is that this was kind of a very vague offer to purchase. And I just, I mean, it's unfortunate that they wanted this done within a week, but nobody could show up. I mean, that's another kind of, I don't know, hint to me. I just would like to know if anybody, I mean, Sean, did you talk to either the real estate agent or whatever, and does he have a certain, I mean, we're going through all this angst, and if he has a certain kind of a zoning that he thinks, this will become, and it's really a non-starter for district, whatever district, I mean, I guess that's my issue, is that I am for this, I was going to vote for it, but I had great concern over this change in zoning, and I just don't even know, he didn't say zone for what use, he didn't even put that in there. Does anyone have any idea if he has any specifics, or is he, I don't know, I just believe that this offer.
Sure, maybe we can let Sean, what do you know?
Yeah, I can answer those questions at some level. Alderperson McElhaney. Bill Eber was out on vacation last week, unfortunately. This offer came up on Thursday, and Brad and I had heard from the real estate agent, Agent Hocking, and there was some question about what the zoning should be so that she could then communicate with the agent that was representing the prospective buyer, and they could write that into the offer. Again, it was unclear. I don't know as much about zoning for Brad. Even I think there was some uncertainty as to what exact classification of zoning that would be, and unfortunately those questions were left until this morning when Mr. Ebert returned. What he's recommended to me is that it was going to be residential. I don't know what kind of residential zoning, but residential is what he seems to be suggesting. As for the buyer not being here, this, and part of me is surprised that this meeting wasn't, I think because of it being virtual, we couldn't put it in closed session, but obviously, the council is doing or could be doing a lot of negotiating. Doing it in open session kind of mutes you from being able to offer a counter offer of a number, for example. But it really wasn't the time or the place for having a buyer. This is kind of a discussion among our side of the transaction then before we go back to the buyer. I don't know if that helps at least address some of your questions. I do think with almost any use that any buyer would come forward with for this property, there's going to be a zoning change. It's institutional, as Mr. Lenz said, because it's been a fire station, and there's pretty much a 0% likelihood that we would sell it for another institutional use. So a lot of the proposed uses that had come through and taken a look at the property would have been some sort of commercial or office or a doggy daycare, or again, people that were just looking at it strictly as a house for themselves, some kind of residential use. So there was going to be required to be some kind of zoning change, almost no matter what. And again, as Mr. Lenz pointed out, that would get taken care of at the next step down the road.
Okay, thank you. Alder Neal.
Thank you again, Mayor. Just a couple of things, I guess. On the philosophical question of, how our body should act when one or another alderperson comes forward representing their district on any given issue, I stress that we are a deliberative body, and we're here to look at things from a variety of angles, and have to answer to the needs of the city as well as our own districts. I don't think any of us would welcome a situation where just because I or another alder feel heatedly about something in our district, that everybody else should just say, well, that's that then, but there's no need to talk anymore. So I've really, my hackles kind of went up against that sort of feeling of how we are supposed to deliberate. I'm also concerned about the urgency that we're, experiencing here with this decision, because it is coming, very quickly, and it has a, very imminent need supposedly. I don't really like that, because it does take away some of our ability to coolly consider things. I'm okay, though, with the fact that Plan Commission comes into play, and that really is where the rubber meets the road on this. We can approve a sale, but the use of that property is going to be determined how it is managed in the Plan Commission deliberations. And I think that's really key. That's where we're going to exert as much control over this as possible, or even end up nixing the deal because we cannot find a planning solution to satisfy the intended user. So that's why I continue to support this. We should not be in the position of constantly holding on to property that we have to maintain, repair, heat, and such forever, awaiting some white knight to come and alleviate us of that burden. But we are in the driver's seat, and I think that we should just go forward by approving the sale and then going through the Plan Commission process, which is, that's why it's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Watson.
I sort of echo Alder Neal's, I guess, concern about the urgency. Like, why is it so quickly coming up? I know it looked like it was 9 days or something, but is there a way like we could counteroffer and extend that so we could maybe have them attend council next Tuesday and discuss it then?
I'll let the attorney speak to
Yes,
that.
yes, actually you could. It's happening this quickly because that's the way the offer was drafted, that there's no binding acceptance unless we accept the offer within that short time period. So as Alder Ryan alluded to earlier, yes, you could move to counteroffer in any number of ways, changing the purchase price, changing when the earnest money's due, changing the amount of the earnest money, changing the closing date or the binding acceptance date. I mean, those are all what I would call the substantial terms of the offer beyond the legal language that I indicated I wanted to change. So yes, that's what's up for your consideration, is that offer to purchase.
If we would do that counteroffer, then we could potentially extend the finish line a little bit more. So then we could have the potential buyer maybe attend the council meeting and have that on the agenda.
Well, you could invite them to attend. I guess you can't force the purchaser to attend, but yes, you could amend the motion on the floor that's been approved to counter with a binding acceptance date that's out much further, or pick a date, which would then push out the closing date and all the other dates.
Because then, I mean, it did come really quickly. And although, Dawn, you have a good sense of the pulse of your neighborhood, I mean, I doubt many, like you said, many people in your neighborhood probably know about this. And maybe it would allow them more time to actually give you feedback and give us feedback, just even if it was another week.
So are you offering an amendment?
I guess I am.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how I want to
Do
word
you,
that, but
might I suggest that you offer an amendment for your consideration to extend the time period for consideration by 1 week? And then that would give you an opportunity to have this on the council agenda for next week and maybe have some more information?
mm-hmm. So maybe extending it out to the 26th of March, which would be a week after the original date.
Okay, so we have a motion to extend the time period to, what is that?
The binding acceptance date.
All right, the amendment is to extend the binding acceptance date to March 26th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Rasmussen. All right, we are now voting on the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Alder Neal, I see your hand is up. I'm not sure if that's still up or, nope, it's down. All right. Alder Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Ann, could you clarify then, it's something that the buyer would have to accept as well?
Yeah, we're making a counteroffer, so it goes back, and until we have a meeting of the minds and we agree on all the terms either one of us have added to the offer, then there's no binding contract. So yes, he would have to agree to that for there to be binding acceptance.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Oh, I see Alder Killian's hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Attorney Jacobson. I mean, would it be possible to simply defeat this tonight and go back with a counter offer?
No, I think probably the cleaner way is the way you're doing it, is to say, well, we approve it, but we're going to amend it, and we're going to approve the sale based on a past, whatever amendments you decide to make tonight that pass will be put in the counteroffer then.
Thank you for that information.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Looks like we are. That we're voting on the amendment to extend the, oh my gosh, what did you call it?
The binding
The
acceptance
binding
date.
acceptance date to the 26th of March, 2021.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
No.
Neal,
Aye.
Wadinsky,
No.
McElhaney,
I can't vote because I'm not understanding the vote. I apologize.
so you're abstaining?
Yep.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Herbst,
Hope I'm saying this right when I say no.
Larson,
No,
Ryan,
No.
so we have 5 yeses, 5 noes, and 1 abstention.
So I guess I get to vote and break the tie. I will vote to extend the date, yes, to the 26th, so we can talk about this next week. Well, we're now voting on the amended, the amended, do you want?
Yeah, you'll be voting on the amended motion now to approve the sale contingent on the zoning and contingent on him accepting our counteroffer of a deferred binding acceptance date to March 26th.
Is it
Because we've
possible
just
then
amended
to
that.
table this until the next council meeting then, or no?
Yeah, that's another motion. You want to make that motion?
To table it to a
We
time
approved the
certain?
amendment, right, so that we're gonna get the counteroffer to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we could table it until the council meeting.
Are you making a motion to table until the next council meeting?
I guess Becky is asking, I'll
Oh.
check.
Alder McElhaney.
Okay, this is why I didn't vote, because that, I understood, and maybe Alder Watson can explain, I understood her motion to extend the acceptance date as a way of not talking about this until, and not making a decision until the next meeting. That's what I understood her motion to mean, and is that correct, Alder Watson?
Yes, because I was hoping that by the counteroffer, it would extend that binding acceptance out, and then we could potentially table it and talk about it on Tuesday.
The way I understood it is you were amending a motion on the floor which had already been made to approve the sale, and that we were amending the offer to extend the binding acceptance date, but then I would get that back out to him before that first date was up, and if he accepts it, you've agreed to sell the property.
That wasn't my understanding
Okay.
of her motion. That's why when it was restated, that's why I couldn't vote on it, because that was not my understanding of her motion.
So I'm hearing that we want to discuss this again on Tuesday. I'm seeing some heads nodding. So if we tabled it until the time certain, which is Tuesday, we can talk about this again, assuming the buyer, the potential buyer,
Yes,
is still
because then you would
interested.
not vote on the main motion if it gets tabled.
Okay, so am I hearing that there's a motion to table this until Tuesday? I just want someone to raise their hand or tell me that that's their motion. A motion by Ryan, second by Watson. Okay. Do we vote on this? Do we vote on, yes. Is there any discussion on the table? I don't think that's a negotiable one. So you all get to vote now.
McElhaney,
We didn't hear you, Alder McElhaney.
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
Wodinski,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Peckham,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Herbst, Larson,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, you will see this again on Tuesday.
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn by Wodinski. Any seconds here? Second by Herbst. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.